Station 18. From the following trade activities of Naveen Limited, calculate gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, operating cost ratio, operating profit ratio. You again have statement of profit or loss wherein you have details of revenue from operations, other incomes, that is income from investments as 200. So total revenue of 20,200. After which you have certain expenses, purchase of stock and trade, change in inventories, finance cost, other expenses which is your administration and selling expenses. So total expenses comes to 18,700. With this we also have profit before tax as 1,500, but here there is no percentage of tax given anywhere in the sum. So what we have to take up is this 1,500 profit before tax, right, will be taken as your profit after tax. The first ratio is gross profit ratio. Gross profit ratio is equal to gross profit divided by revenue from operations into 100. We do not have gross profit value directly. So what we have to do is first find out gross profit value. How can we calculate gross profit? Gross profit is equal to revenue from operations minus cost of revenue from operations. We already have revenue from operations in the sum itself, which is 20,000. Write it here, minus cost of revenue from operations is not given directly. So what we have to do is cost of revenue from operations is equal to purchase of stock and trade plus changes in inventories plus direct expenses. That's the formula for calculating cost of revenue from operations. We have purchase of stock and trade as 17,000, changes in inventories as minus 1,000. So we are writing here as minus 1,000. Okay, if it is in the positive value, then we will be writing it as plus 1,000. Since here minus is given, you have to write minus 1,000. There are no direct expenses, so write as 0. So 17,000 minus 1,000, you get 16,000 as your cost of revenue from operations. So here minus 16,000, so 20,000 minus 16,000 will give you 4,000, which is your gross profit, divided by revenue from operations, which we already have in the sum itself, that is 20,000 into 100. Now when you cancel all these values, 20 into 5 is 100, so 4 into 5, 20 percentage. Okay, the next one is net profit ratio. Net profit ratio is equal to net profit after tax divided by revenue from operations into 100. Since there is no tax given here, there is no tax computed, or they didn't give us any percentage for calculating tax, so we can take this amount before tax as net profit after tax. Okay, so 1,500 divided by revenue from operations 20,000 into 100. Again cancel these values. 2 into 7.5 is 15, so you get 7.5 percentages. The next two ratios are operating cost and operating profit ratio. So we have here operating cost ratio is equal to operating cost divided by revenue from operations into 100. So first we need to calculate operating cost. So how can we calculate operating cost? Is cost of revenue from operations plus operating expenses. We already have found the cost of revenue from operations while calculating gross profit ratio. Okay, we have 16,000 as cost of revenue from operations, so we can directly take this amount as your cost of revenue from operations. Then add operating expenses, right? So here you have administration and selling. These two are your operating expenses. Finance cost should not be taken, only administration and selling, which is 2,400. So now you apply this. Operating cost is equal to cost of revenue from operations, which we already found, plus operating expenses, which is your other expenses, which is given as administration and selling expenses, which is 2,400. Now you get 18,400 as your operating cost. Now 18,400 divided by revenue from operations 20,000 into 100. So now when you cancel these values, you get 92%. So this is your operating cost ratio. Then comes operating profit ratio. Operating profit divided by revenue from operations into 100. How can we calculate operating profit? Which is revenue from operation minus operating cost. Okay, so we already have revenue from operations as 20,000, the sum itself, minus operating cost, which we found out while calculating the operating cost ratio, which is 18,400. So 20,000 minus 18,400, we'll get 1,600. This is your operating profit. So 1,600 divided by 20,000 into 100. Again you cancel these, you get 2 into 8, which is 8%. Okay, so this is how you have to calculate your operating profit ratio.